just to quickly repeat, I create a war file, I add it as a worker role, I have a tomcat, I have JDK which I have added in the worker role here. The next step which I am going to do now is to test the application on the local machine. And when I say local machine, it is the emulator which I am going to use to test that application. So before I can do that, I'll go ahead and build this particular project. And once I build it, I can start executing the startup file so that my applications are. So here you get a folder after you build the project. You get a folder called as Emulator Tools. In this Emulator Tools, you have two files. One is run in emulator and reset the emulator. To deploy the application on the emulator and to start the emulator, I'm going to go ahead and run the emulator straight away. So I go to run, I go to the emulator tools, and run in emulator is the file which I want to execute so that I can deploy my applications locally on my machine on the emulator. So if you notice, I am just executing the emulator.command file, and now this application with Azure demo project which we created just now is going to get deployed on this particular thing. So let me stop this particular worker role. So once I have this, I'll build the project and then execute this particular thing so that I have, this is the emulator which we said in Windows Azure Compute Emulator. I go ahead, open the folder for this particular stuff and start the emulator. So you have this as a folder. So Windows Azure demo project. Under emulator tools, you have run in emulator. Just to make sure that everything that we did is in the right sequence. So you have this is a tomcat folder name. You have the war that is created, and the war was created from this particular file, Windows Azure thing. And now you go ahead and let me just stop the emulator here. Further, I go to the folder for the emulator tools and go ahead and run the emulator out here. Now, once you execute the emulator, it is going to start, as you see here, it is going to start the emulator, deploy your application onto the cloud that is simulated on this particular machine. So the emulator helps you creating the environment which is there on your machine. And now if you see, the startup command will automatically unzip the zips that you have given. You had provided jdk.zip. So this jdk.zip is getting unzipped from the folder and then is going to get deployed on the emulator. After jdk.zip gets unzipped, you will see that the tomcat.zip will get unzipped on the emulator, and then go ahead and the tomcat gets started into your worker role. So if you notice this, the worker role is getting started. Green indicates that the role is getting started now. So once the JDK is done, you can see after the JDK will be done, you will see the next step will be that it will automatically, because the startup script is automatically going to explore the tomcat zip folder and is going to extract the data and start the tomcat onto the emulator. So this is going to take a couple of time. So in this period when the deployment happens on the local machine, I don't want to just keep waiting for this to happen. This is going to take around 3 to 4 minutes so that this will get unzipped out here. In the meanwhile, I'm going to go to the Windows Azure Management Portal. The URL for that Windows Azure Management Portal is windows.azure.com. Here is where you can go ahead and deploy your applications on the cloud. This is going to go live. So once you successfully test our application on the emulator, this is going to take your application live. So I'm going to sign in with my ID. And on the Windows Azure Management Portal, I can go ahead and upload this Java application which I just created and make the application, the Java application, live on Windows Azure. So you can just see this. In the meanwhile, now we'll have to go switch between windows because both of the windows are going to take some time. If you successfully see just now that the jdk.zip has been successfully extracted. In a similar fashion, now the tomcat7.zip will get extracted, and once that is done, you will see a message on the emulator that your Tomcat server is ready. Once your Tomcat server is ready, we can go ahead and test the application on the local machine. That is the emulator. And post that, I'm going to show you how to deploy that on the cloud. So coming back to the cloud, what we will do is, so this is the Windows Azure Management Portal. To have access to this, I have already told you that you will need to have a valid subscription which you can purchase, and then go ahead and create a Azure subscription for you. So I have a linked Azure subscription to my Hotmail account. So that's where you can see I'm able to access the Windows Azure Management Portal. Now, once this is populated, it's going to populate all the services which are there. Once this is populated, I'm going to create a new service for this particular group and show a demo on how do we deploy the application on the cloud, which we have just tested onto emulator. So I'm just waiting for this to get populated, the hosted services to get populated. Yeah, so here we go. We can now go ahead and click on a new hosted service. While you say new hosted service, you will choose a subscription that is linked to your account. Now you don't get it here because sometimes it takes time to populate subscription information here. So once this is done, once the subscription information is loaded here on this particular screen in the center of this, I can go ahead and now a new hosted service. I can choose, I have two subscriptions, I can choose a valid subscription to go ahead. I can use some name for a subscription. What is the URL that you want to make it applicable? I can say Nilesh or Nilesh Java app .cloudapp.net. So this will be the URL. Nilesh Java app.cloudapp.net will be the URL where your application will be hosted. Then I choose a region. In which region of the Microsoft data center you want to host the application? I am choosing Southeast Asia as the region. And I want that the application, I have already tested the application locally on my machine. So I want next that this application should be deployed onto the production environment directly. I can say this deployment is version 1, and what I need is only two things. I need a package file and I need a configuration file. A package file here in this case will have three important things. It will have the var that you created, which will have the JSP file. The same package will have the JDK zip, and the same package will have the Tomcat zip. So the package file will have all the necessary things, and the configuration as to what should be the size of your VM, how many instances, all that stuff will go in the size of the VM will go in the package file, whereas the number of instances will go in your configuration file. The question is now, how do we create a package file? So let's shift back our focus from the management portal to the compute emulator. So now if you see, the Java app exe is running, which means your Tomcat server has successfully started on the Windows Azure emulator. So to really test whether my application is running well or not, what I can do is I can test my application locally at port number 8080. And what was the name of the var which I gave? The name of the var Azure demo. So the name of the var is what I can give, Azure demo. So this is the URL which I'm and bingo, our application now is, the Java application is up and running on the emulator. Once you do this, our next step will be to create a package. And here is one important step. If you want that to create a package to deploy it on the cloud, what you will have to do is you have to go to the Azure demo project, go to the property window. Now you will see Windows Azure. All this is possible just because you have the plugin with you. So the Windows